everybody, and welcome to the Keto 101 videos with Yogi. Make sure that you click like and subscribe down below so that you can get all the new videos. Give us feedback on the comments, and make sure you check the show notes for any kind of offers or links to products that we may mention into the show videos. Also, remember, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is simply guidelines of how to do a ketogenic diet in basic standards and how I would follow the ketogenic diet. All right, everybody, have a great day and enjoy the video. Hey, everybody. I'm Yogi, and I'm coming to you with a little bit of a Keto 101 course to help new people to the ketogenic diet understand what it is, understand why it's important to follow, especially in the beginning, rules for macros. Later on, we're going to address things like testing, nutrient density, what the macros are, what they do, how the hormones work, and so on and so forth. Today, I just want to do a quick introduction to keto, what it is, what the guidelines are, and why you follow those guidelines. So, a ketogenic diet is any diet that is going to shift your body from being a sugar burner, a carbohydrate burner, into being a fat burner. Reason why you want to do this to lose fat is so that it's easier for your body to access those fat stores and burn them off to get rid of that excess fat. And it is also important to get a better hormonal balance. Eating and living off of simple carbohydrates for too long can drive insulin, which drives other hormones, which creates a more larger hunger response, the need to eat more often excessively eating calories, and it also, the excessive insulin drives fat storage. It wants to slam that excess sugar into your fat cells and can cause later problems like diabetes. So, the basic rules, the basic guidelines, let's call them guidelines because they're not exactly rules. As you learn how to do keto, you can vary up a little bit. But the basic guidelines are to eat 70% fat, to eat 20% protein, and to eat 10% carbohydrate. And not any carbohydrate, but you want to eat things like leafy greens and healthier versions of carbohydrates. And there are two different versions, and I'll address that in a later video. So, people can kind of get overwhelmed at the idea of eating 70% fat. And it's actually not that hard because fat is so calorie dense. It doesn't take a lot of fat on your plate to reach that 70% mark on the amount of calories you're getting from your meal. So it could be as simple as using a healthy fat dressing on your salad, adding a little butter to your steak, having a bulletproof beverage or Fatty Joe style beverage with a little oil and coconut oil and butter in your coffee. The type of fats you get are also very important. You want to stay away from industrial oils, things that are highly inflammatory, as those can cause problems with you. So you want to stay away from the things like canola, soy, vegetable oils, shortening, any of those factory byproduct oils that they market. Those are no good for you, and it could actually cause you to have a lot of problems and even have your ketogenic diet not work for you. Now, what you're doing when you eat this higher amount of fat is you're actually getting your hormones under control. So when you eat a higher amount of fat, a lower amount of carbohydrates, you're not spiking your insulin as much. And so you're not driving that fat storage. You're getting your body used to consuming the fat as a fuel and producing it into energy, so that when you are getting to a point where you're eating less because you're feeling satisfied more, that you're able to tap into those fat storages much easier and much more comfortably. If you're getting into fasting, most people who are on a ketogenic diet are actually more successful at fasting because their body is adapted to using fat as fuel. So those initial stages, what you are doing is actually getting your body adapted to focus on fat as its fuel source. And when you do that, you're going to be able to tap into those lipid cells that are inside your body and burn away that fat. Now, for some people, it can take longer than others to become fat adapted. It depends on how much metabolic damage that your body has. It depends on how insulin resistant or sensitive you are, your activity levels, and just a number of factors. Now, one thing that people often experience too as they are adapting is something that people call the keto flu, where it's a kind of a negative sync energy feeling where you feel just tapped out, maybe flu-like symptoms. This often comes because of the fact that when you go on a ketogenic diet, your body drops a lot of water. Carbohydrates, it's carbon and hydrogen, hydrate. You're getting water in for all the carbohydrates that you store in your fat cells. You store a copious amount of water. As that water flushes out, it takes with it minerals and things like that, so you can actually get mineral deficient. It is important that you keep your electrolytes up, and this will help deal with that keto flu and possibly prevent it. So you want to make sure you get good quality electrolytes, and you want sodium, potassium, magnesium. Those are your main electrolyte minerals that are going to help you with muscle cramping, going to help you keep water in your cells so you can keep your energy up, to help prevent that sick feeling. So it's really important that you make sure that you have a good quality supply of that, and that you take it daily in your water or as a electrolyte supplement, whatever you need to do. If you're mixing up your own electrolyte drink, whatever you need to do. And that will help you prevent and overcome that keto flu and make things not as bad. Later videos, I'll talk more about your minerals, what they do, why they're important, why especially on keto, it's okay to consume more sodium, and why when you're on keto, it doesn't affect your blood pressure as long as you have healthy kidneys. There is testing, and a lot of people get into that. You have the P strips, which are not entirely accurate, but they're a good way to find out if you're actually producing ketones, but they're not something you want to use long term. You have the blood meters, which are the most accurate form of testing, and you have the breath meters, which are fairly accurate, just can be pretty pricey to get the initial setup, but over time you don't have to buy a lot of replacement stuff, so they can actually be more cost effective over time. So later on we'll talk about testing, we'll talk about why different testing is better than others, and we'll also talk about chasing ketones and things. If your body is producing ketones, but you don't have an extreme high amount of ketones and you don't have a low amount, there could be reasons for that. If your body's starting to get adapted really well and you're burning those ketones for fuel very efficiently, you may not have as many ketones that show up in your urine or any at all. So these are things that you have to be careful about. When it comes to everything out there, you'll see people saying, no, you got to eat more meat, you got to get more protein, you got to get more fat, you got to do this, you got to raise your ratios. That is kind of more the advanced keto. What you really want to do when you start out is focus on those main guidelines that I've said. A very simple meal can be steak, salad, or hamburger patty, salad, little bit of a good homemade dressing over the top, a homemade mayo dressing, or some good olive oil and maybe a little butter over the steak, and you're good. If you look at the different foods, the calorie content, protein does have a higher count. There's about 4 calories of energy for every gram of protein. but your body wants to use protein as a building block, so it doesn't really want it to use it as energy. That's the Lego your body uses to rebuild itself. Your carbohydrates, your leafy greens, actually don't supply that very many calories, so you can have a lot of them. They could be a great filler if you don't have any food reactions to them. So loading up on the leafy greens especially is a fantastic way to go. You are going to get into a little darker water once you get into the squashes, the berries, the things like that. They're going to be higher calorie. In general, the highest calorie vegetables are the ones that grow underground. The potatoes, the sweet potatoes. But there are exceptions to these rules, and we will learn and talk about them later on. But to start off, to make things simple, leafy greens, if you want to add a little bit of tomato, if you want to add a few other things, that's the best way to go. And we'll also talk about later on digestion. We'll go a little bit more in depth on the rules, the guidelines, when to know to vary from them. But generally, you want to try to stick with the basic guidelines for at least a few months to get your body adapted, to get things adjusted, and to see how you respond. Much like working out, if you go on a ketogenic diet, many times you're not going to get results right away. You're not going to get over those sweet cravings. You're not going to get over the larger appetite right off the bat. It's going to take time to get into a sync and get your body adapted to it. So you're not going to get huge biceps by going to the gym and doing 5 curls and then going home and that's it. So in order to build those muscles up, you got to be on it for a while. And what you're doing with keto is you're building a new habit, you're building a new lifestyle, so it's going to take time. So I recommend sticking with it for 3 to 6 months to really start seeing results. We'll also talk about later on scales, non-scale victories, how to see what kind of progress you're making, even if you don't drop weight, why you might not be dropping weight, the difference between weight and fat loss. So we'll be discussing all this stuff. Anyway, have a great day, everybody. Me and the gerbil are saying c'est la vie until the next video. All right, bye.